Welcome to the AI Lyceum, where we explore how AI is impacting the world. I created it in homage to Aristotle's Lyceum in Athens, which has explored various subjects. I'm Samraj Matharu, certified AI ethicist and visiting lecturer at Durham University. So each episode, I speak with leaders who have unique ideas or tools for us to use AI. So today I'm joined by Sunil Jindal, co-founder of Magic AI, an award-winning consumer tech company behind an AI-powered smart mirror that brings personal training into your home. Its tagline is the most intelligent home gym. The mirror uses computer vision to guide your workouts, count reps, and give real-time feedback to you, recognizing over 400 exercises and featuring virtual trainers, including former England cricket captain Alistair Cook. It was named one of Time magazine's best inventions of 2024, praised for making AI personable, accessible, and human-centered, especially for people who find gyms intimidating, too expensive, or too time-consuming. Today, we'll explore the future of consumer tech and what happens when AI becomes part of your daily life, and where Sunil thinks AI-powered products are heading next. So, Sunil, welcome.
Thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being on. I've been into the gym for my whole life, so it was great to see your product. And as soon as I saw your product, and my mum showed me actually your product, I thought I had to reach out to you guys and get you on the podcast. So that's how you got on here.
Nice, amazing, exciting.
Yeah, so obviously you guys have been around for some time, just before I think ChatGPT 3 came out publicly. So can you talk to me about your journey just from the last few years and how it's gone so far?
Yeah, sure. So we started about 4 years ago now, so just after the sort of pandemic. And we were building this company before AI was like such a big buzzword. So yeah, as you were saying, we use computer vision to track your body movement. So you stand in front of the mirror, you follow along with the workout that's playing on the screen, and our technology will count your reps and correct your form if you do something wrong. We've come a long way. So we launched in Selfridges in the early days, back when there was just two of us in the company, so myself and my co-founder. And now, we're a team of 20. So we had a nice breakfast at Dishoom this morning with the whole team. There's about 20 of us now. So things have really come a long way. Obviously, plenty of challenges along the way, but lots of great highlights as well that have brought us to where we are now. And I think, the position we're in now, it's great because obviously AI is a big thing. I think for any company that's out there right now, what you can do with AI is incredible. I use, obviously, like most people, ChatGPT. You've got all of these various different tools out there, different LLMs and things that you can use. And super exciting to see, how AI plays into our company, but also other companies as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the Darling edition. I think it's the best style ever, man. Darling. I actually have looked at your website and I've looked at some of your reviews. So I'm going to read out a review just for those listening. So someone said, in love with you, Magic Mirror. In love with you, Magic Mirror. I'm a full-time single mum and suffer 2 autoimmune conditions, which make going to the gym regularly an impossible task. Now I can just switch my mirror on, and as my body allows me to. Definitely my best purchase so far. So it looks like you're offering people the chance to work out who, 1, find the gym intimidating, and 2, can do things in the safety of their own home. So I find that to be like a massive USP for you guys, is that you're allowing people who might be a little bit inhibited to do certain movements, to do it in the comfort of their own spaces, which is great.
No, exactly. I mean, seeing reviews like that for me personally it's really emotional because, you put a lot of effort into building what we've built, and to see how it's genuinely impacting people's lives in a very positive way it's so good to see. I remember in the early days, we had this person in a wheelchair who reached out to us, and he sent us a really long email about how he could see this product really benefiting him, because what he was saying was that a lot of gyms, at least the gym that the gyms that he'd seen, weren't really designed for people like himself. And so he thought, it was great that he can work out at home. As you said, you're not being judged. It's convenient. A lot of people tend to be quite busy, especially, if you go to a gym in a wheelchair, or you go anywhere in a wheelchair, because, people do tend to, you might get some people looking at you, right? Because you're a little bit different. Doesn't mean they're looking at you in a bad way, but you do get that sort of extra attention. And sometimes people don't like that, especially, if you're maybe trying to exercise. And so it's just great to see that there are people like this out there who are using this product that, we've as a team have put a lot of effort into building, and it's genuinely benefiting them in such a positive way.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I see sometimes people imagine who are in wheelchairs, and it is a little bit more difficult for them to get access to certain machines and certain equipment, and they need help. So it's really great that you've got this. Actually, obviously a big piece of news that came out recently was that OpenAI has agreed to buy the healthcare AI app Torch for $100 million. And it's amazing. The team's only 4 people. So I've just got a few notes here. So it's called Torch Health, a 1-year-old startup specializing in unifying personal medical records and lab results for $100 million. And the acquisition is an acqui-hire of their 4-person founding team to build a unified medical memory. So it looks like, personally, I think the future of healthcare is with AI and getting recommendations and assistance. And I've used the Aura app with a Ring, and I feel like the magic mirror is so clever because, one, it reminds me of Harry Potter and that mirror that you can see anything you want in. And 2, like, it's just genius because I don't know how Varun came up with the idea, but it's just one of the best ideas I've ever heard in my life, honestly. I can see being on Dragon's Den. That's the sort of idea you can see being on Dragon's Den and get like millions and millions and millions of investment.
Yeah, we were invited to the Dragon's Den actually, but we didn't go ahead with it. It wasn't kind of the right sort of timing for us. But yeah, it's so interesting, the whole concept of. So when I was younger, I think one of my first ideas that I can remember was a mirror TV. So I remember looking at my TV and I was like, hang on, like when this is off, what purpose does it really serve? And I thought, it'd be so great if this could become a mirror when it's off, and you can actually, like you can use it to look at yourself at the very least. And to see now, obviously we're building this product where, it's sort of similar to that idea in a way, where you have this big device, it's just you turn it off, it's just a wall mirror. It blends into your furniture at home. It is a piece of furniture, right? Most of the time it's off. So it just blends seamlessly into your home. We've put a lot of effort into how we design the hardware to make sure that, aesthetically it is very pleasing. And then you turn it on and it's this magical device, you could say. It is, and it sort of feels like a big phone, in a sense. You turn it on, you have your magic app, it loads, you sort of choose the workout you want to do, and all this intelligence is built into this product. And quite often you see when we show people this product, when it's off, most people don't really know that there's more to it. I've heard stories about how people have invited, guests around to their house, and they have this mirror, and suddenly, they turn it on and they're like, wow, I didn't realize that, it could do this. They genuinely thought it was just a mirror. And I think that's where AI and technology becomes very interesting in terms of, it not being this device that is constantly in your face and, is at the forefront of your life, but it's something that just fits seamlessly into your day-to-day activities. That's where we're sort of what we're trying to do with this product.
As it's a mirror in someone's home, what privacy challenges do you think there are? Because obviously it must have some sort of sensor or camera in there, right? To track what you're doing when you're working out. So how does that work? And also, what privacy considerations or challenges have you faced so far?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you think about, camera. So there is a camera built in. You think about a camera in a gym, right? That feels pretty normal to people. But when you put a camera in your home, it is very different. So, users, sometimes they can worry about being recorded, who can access this camera feed, who can actually see me exercising. You get people who think about, is this camera on? Is it actually recording? Even when I'm not exercising, if somebody turns the mirror off or leaves it on and just walks away, people do think about, whether or not it's actually recording them. And obviously there are, people who also put the mirror in their bedroom. A lot of people, especially in London, tend to have quite a small flat, and their living room is their bedroom. And so, that's the only place they can put it. That I wouldn't say that's like a huge concern. You do get some people who say that, especially when you consider, we've got so many customers out there. You are going to hear some people, at least a few, who are going to raise this. Generally, it's not been an issue. And I think the easiest way to really solve the problem from a user perspective is to just turn the mirror off from the mains, which is pretty straightforward to do. But naturally, as with any technology, I'd say the same thing applies to your phone as well. People do question, if their phone is recording them, if you're having a conversation as we are, I'm sure you've heard plenty of examples where, people go onto their phone and they're like, hang on, like it sounds like Google has been listening to me because suddenly they're showing me ads for this thing that we were talking about an hour ago. So I think like privacy is a concern, whether or not it's a mobile phone, whether or not it's an AI mirror, it is a concern regardless. But we do think about how we can cater for this, and we are very conscious about the data that we do store and what we do with that data as well that we do take in. So we think very deeply about it. I wouldn't say it's like a huge concern for our users.
Nice. And on the topic of using data, what sort of metrics do you track for someone? So let's say I'm working out. What sort of things would you pass through to the reporting dashboard, and what can I access if I'm using it?
So I think like in terms of the computer vision aspects, and when we think about how we count reps and how we correct somebody's form, again, we're very careful about the data that we do track. So obviously you have your camera feed. So the mirror, the camera is obviously, as we are doing with this podcast, it's picking up the image of you. And what we do with that data is we then identify the coordinates of a select number of points on your body. And the only data that we then use are those coordinates. So we don't actually store the camera feed itself. So we can't see you. We don't store a video of you exercising. We don't even store those coordinates. We use those coordinates, and that's what we do our analysis on. So we're not actually storing any of that, but we are using those coordinates to determine if you're doing, a rep, and if you're doing the exercise properly. You go into your data dashboard, you can see, other things. We do calculate your calories, how many reps you've done, the weight you've lifted, the volume you've done. We also calculate a form quality metric. So because, we are analyzing your technique and how you're exercising, we basically can identify how good your form is, and we give that a numerical value. And essentially all of this data, the aim of it is to help you to, improve over time. Obviously, injuries is another big thing as well. We want to, help you ensure that you try and avoid injuries or minimize the likelihood of injuries. We think about our core demographic. They tend to be, so the average age is around 41. It tends to be people who are sort of in the second half of their life or going towards that time. And as you get past 40, unless you start doing regular strength training, you start losing muscle mass. And so it's those people who care much more about optimizing for their health as opposed to the younger crowd who care more about looking good. And so that's where, injuries become more important, because as you get older, you're more likely to get injuries. And that's where the form correction, how it sort of tells you if you do something wrong, becomes very important for this demographic. And so we try and focus on that quite a lot with our tracking.
Yeah, I find it amazing how you guys are pulling all this data into one place, and the coordinates thing's pretty genius. Over 40 is quite an interesting demographic as well. I think I've always loved training, and one of the benefits of training is you will always feel great after you do it, unless you're ill and then obviously you feel worse. But training is amazing. And one of the things that people like to get kind of, one of the key metrics that people look at is weight, right? Do you have some sort of like weighing scale built into the mirror or something? Or is it just a mirror by itself?
Yeah, we don't have a weighing scale built in. One thing that we have got, which is sort of similar in a sense. So we do a body scan of the user. So again, using AI technology, this is slightly different technology, but what we do is we get you to stand in front of the mirror. So you stand face on, and then you stand side on, and our technology will basically scan your body. And we recommend, wearing tight-fitting clothing for this. And basically what the technology will do is it will try to calculate your body fat percentage and your lean muscle mass. We don't calculate your weight itself. We rely on the user to input their weight. But what we do with that data is, as I was saying, we calculate your body fat percentage, your lean muscle mass. And we try to work out your metabolic age as well. So we look at, your like where our technology thinks you are compared to where we think you should be. And then what we're working on at the moment is trying to use all of this data to then say, okay, this is where you are, using all of the data that we have about you. This is how this is the training we believe you should be doing to get to your goal. So again, it's about creating that sort of personalized experience for the user, and that's where this AI technology and the data becomes super useful. What we do is so there's two types of weight. There's obviously the weight of the user, and there's the weight that you're lifting as well. So when it comes to the weight that you're lifting, we do recommend to the user what weight they should be using. So we have this feature which, because of our technology, we can obviously track your movements, we can calculate your rep speed, we can see how good your form is, and we're using this data to say, okay, you're lifting well, it's now time to increase the weight to this, or you should decrease the weight to this because you're struggling. So we're trying to use computer vision there to basically create a smarter experience for the user, because we think about it, most of our users, beginners, they don't really know how to exercise. They don't know what weight to lift. They're new to this. They're obviously very anxious. They want to make sure, they're doing the exercise properly. Again, injuries are a big thing. And so that's where AI, our technology, can play a big role in helping to alleviate some of that anxiety for our users, and getting them to a place where they can exercise at home with nobody judging them. And, as we've seen from the Trustpilot review that you mentioned and many others, we are doing that in some capacity, and we're already getting better. So it's great to see.
You mentioned that anxiety is a big area. There's also another thing I read the other day, which is that alcohol consumption is the lowest it's been for a very long time, or I don't know in what time period, but it's very, very low. So there is a trend for people becoming more healthy or health conscious. So I've seen that I think Vuren posted it on LinkedIn the other day, saying that you guys had your first £100,000 day, which is 100 units, because one of your units is worth £1,000, right? So you're selling 100 units a day, sometimes more than that, which is amazing. So, what do you see the future being for consumers and your business as well?
In terms of, do you mean in terms of like where AI is heading, or
just generally for your business and what consumers' habits are going to be, and how that's going to affect everything to do with your business? And obviously AI is part of that. So yeah, just your open thoughts really about next 5 years. Do you see everyone in the UK buying one of these mirrors? Do you see everyone in the world buying a mirror? What's your kind of gauger so far, or what are you seeing so far as your key things?
Yeah, I think the company, the expectation is that company will continue to grow. We are expanding into other countries at the moment as well. So we just, we're starting to expand into the US, and that's going to be very sort of interesting space for us. And I think the way fitness is going and has been going for a while is that the experience is becoming much more personalized, right? So we think about this business and how it started. The goal was to build an AI personal trainer. And, most people, a lot of people cannot afford a PT. The average cost for a PT is £50 per hour, in London. And with our mirror, when you think about the cost, you sort of weigh it up and you do the comparison, it actually works out to be a lot cheaper. It's also just a lot cheaper than a typical gym membership as well in London. So I think that is a big reason why people are flocking to buy this. And then again, as we were saying, people can work out from their own home. That anxiety that people feel when they go to the gym, a lot of people don't feel comfortable in the gym. It really helps in that regard. Then I think about AI and how, that technology is evolving at the moment. I think where we're starting to head with this, again, it's about making things much more personalized. But the way I see this, and one thing I talk about quite often these days, is when we look at Gen AI and what it's doing for us. Right now, what we do with our workouts, so when we create workouts to release on the mirror, we hire a studio, we film these workouts in the studio, and then we edit them, and then we release them on the mirror. I think at some point it's going to be, we are there somewhat now, but I think at some point it's going to be very easy to just go onto some sort of product, some sort of tool, and just type in a few words and create a workout from that. And one thing I like to think is like, imagine if the instructor on the screen wasn't, some random instructor. Imagine if it was you or a future version of you. What is it that you want to look like a year down the line? And we use this technology to create that persona, right? So this trainer on the screen is future you. So it's future you training present you to become future you, which I think is game changing. If I was totally honest, elite athletes, they talk about visualization. Imagine, if you could actually visualize yourself, you could actually see yourself on a screen, on a mirror of all places, which I think is like really interesting because you can see this virtual image of yourself on the screen, and then overlaying that is your actual reflection on the mirror. You can see this very clear comparison of how you look now versus where you want to be. And I think that is like a great motivator for people, because I think when you see that image of yourself on the screen, suddenly it feels much more possible, which is why elite athletes use visualization. One of the reasons is because, it kind of feels much more realistic, and it creates this clearer pathway from getting to where you are now to where you want to be. We talk about progress photos. Progress photos currently look backwards, but imagine if progress photos could also look forwards. It's like a timeline view of how you've progressed over time, but you could also extrapolate from the present day to where you want to be a year down the line. And I think this is where we're starting to head with not just with us, but I think technology in general. And then obviously you've got natural language, and the goal, one of the big goals of AI is to create a sort of Jarvis, you could say, right? Like you have in Jarvis from Iron Man. We are trying to create technology that emulates humans, and ideally, I don't know if ideally is the right word, but people are also thinking about AI that surpasses humans as well, which is another realm of discussion where things can become very scary. But I think that is where we're heading. So we're getting away from this technology where we're working with these interfaces like phones, and I think becoming more like sort of voice-based communication. And I think the mirror sort of fits in really well there, because it's a nice piece of furniture. You can talk to it rather than going up to it and pressing it. Again, we're trying to replace a personal trainer. A personal trainer, you don't go up to and you start clicking on a personal trainer, you talk to the personal trainer. And that's what we're trying to get to with this mirror at some point, to make it more of a communication between this device that you have this emotional connection with and yourself, and trying to create this quite futuristic experience, you could say.
Yeah, you dropped some really, really good ideas in there, and like the way that you guys, like I've written down here, the persona for yourself could be called my persona. And I was actually thinking, when you're saying there's people on the screen, it could be yourself, and you could train it with it. You could imagine if I could speak into it for an hour, or like over time it understands my voice and it can talk to me in my voice. That'd be pretty good, right? And give you nudges. I'm a big fan of manifestation and visualization as well. I think they say, when you're reading a book, right, your tongue is practicing the speech that you would speak if you spoke it out loud whilst you're reading in your head. So just by reading a book, you're actually becoming better at speaking. That's why reading's so good for you, because your brain is still thinking about how you're saying it, because in your mind you have your inner voice. You also mentioned you wanted to be like Jarvis. I think Jarvis is amazing. Maybe you can make an Iron Man suit in the future. And I was thinking, have you ever thought about advertising? So when the mirror is dormant and someone comes into the home, imagine the phone signals on the same Wi-Fi network. You could somehow use that data to place ads on the mirror in the home, and that way you get some sort of ads for certain fitness wearables or certain partnerships while someone's just in their home. And if they allow it to happen, they get certain discounts and offers just for offering advertising to be on this mirror. Have you thought of that before?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different routes we could go down. Personally, I'm a big fan of trying to minimize noise. I think there's already a lot of noise out there in the world, and I think the best technology in the future will be technology that sort of blends into your lifestyle and sort of kind of adds to your life, supports your life more than technology that kind of is in your face constantly, because we see that a lot now. And I think the information age, a lot of information, everything is basically available at your fingertips, right? And I think I'm personally not a big fan of advertising. I mean, there's a lot of things out there competing for your attention. I think for me personally, obviously, we kind of look at this as a team, but for me personally, it's about identifying key value that we can provide for our users. I think there's probably much more valuable things that we can display on that mirror whilst it's not in use. That aren't ads, but obviously not saying ads aren't useful. There are plenty of ads that are useful. For example, the magic ads. But I think one thing we have thought about is when the mirror is not in use, it goes into standby mode. You could see, for example, the time is a very simple idea, right? You could show the time, you could show the weather, you could even show users' data, users' fitness data, right? What is it that is going to motivate a user to come back and do a workout again? And it's probably something around, showing them their data, or kind of, showing them, I suppose, telling them they need to exercise, otherwise they're going to lose out on this progress, or whatever it is, like something that's not forceful but feels more natural and is adding value to the user's life. I think there's a lot that we can do there. And adverts are one idea, and maybe there's something good along those lines that could be done. But I think that the real point, I suppose, is that there's just so much that can be displayed there that, and that creates a lot of value. It can create a lot of value for the user. The simple thing is just, if you haven't worked out in a set number of days, or if you want to set a reminder for yourself to come back and exercise, the mirror could just start pinging at a certain time, and that reminds you that you need to exercise. And again, it's not doing something that is constantly nagging the user to come back, but it's doing something that is actually adding value to the user and helping to improve their lives, rather than saying, you need to come back and use the mirror because we want you to, or we need you to. It's more, come back and use the mirror, because if you don't, you're going to lose out on this progress, or, it's going to negatively impact you, I suppose.
Yeah, it's really good. It's more loss aversion theory, right? People don't like to lose as much as they like to gain. So if I say to you, you're going to lose 10 pounds versus you can gain 10 pounds, you'd rather hate to lose 10 pounds than to love to gain 10 pounds in terms of cash, not fat. You've written down here about time and weather maybe being on the screen. I think that'd be cool. If I had an Aura Ring, or if I had an Apple Watch, or a Renpho body scanning thing, can I connect those into the data or into the app that you guys have? And also, it's a touchscreen.
Yeah, that's something we're working on at the moment. So the benefit of the mirror is that we do push updates on a regular basis. It's like you can think of it as a mobile phone, as a mobile app, essentially. So, you get regular app updates. The mirror will update itself. I think one of the big things with this is, if we can sync up your data from various other platforms, what it does help us do is it helps to create a much more personalized experience for you. So, for example, when you first sign up, when you first register on the mirror and you create your account, we don't really have much data about you beyond the questions we've asked. And what that means is that it becomes, it's not as easy to create a personalized experience as it is later on. So the more we learn about you, the more personalized the experience can become. And so by tapping into these wearable devices that you have from day one, we can look at all of your historical data, obviously, with your permission, and use that to create this personalized experience from day one. An example is if you don't sleep well the night before and you've got a workout scheduled for that day, what we can do is we can say, okay, this person hasn't slept so well, so maybe they don't have the energy to do a full workout, but let's recommend that they do something rather than nothing, because at least then they're making some progress. So we could create a shorter workout as an outcome of that. So there's so much, we can do with that data, but again, it's about making sure that we're being mindful of the data that we are collecting and using that to create genuine value rather than just collecting data for the sake of collecting data.
Yeah, exactly. Having data for a means to an outcome is more important than just superfluous data, right? And I was just thinking, actually, when you were saying about how people use it quite a lot, what about runners? Like, so my friend the other day was telling me his mum got like this flat treadmill thing. Like, it's like a super slim treadmill you can have in your house. and it slides onto your desk or something and you can take it out. Can I run on that treadmill in front of the mirror and then it analyze me? And also, if I did boxing on a bag, can the mirror like analyze me during that, or is it strictly kind of a circuit training sort of thing?
Yeah, so our core focus at the moment is strength. We support strength. We have yoga and we have dance. We are introducing Pilates very soon as well. We're constantly introducing new things. With running, it becomes a little bit more challenging. What we do have various sort of programs, classes that are built for runners. So you can have strength for running classes, for example. So we do things to support, various different types of people. And obviously, if you are running, it is important to make sure that you do have good strength in certain areas of your body to minimize the risk of injury. And so right now we are catering more for those things. And in the future, who knows, we might expand into various other areas.
Yeah, I think the running thing could be quite good, but then again, runners like to run outside. I tore my ACL 5 years ago, so looking at injury specific routines to heal the body would be quite good. And if it can analyze, the proprioception of the body through the movements and if it can tell if the knees function better, that could be quite good, particularly for me. I'm still kind of prehabbing it every single week. I was going to ask you, do you have a patent for this technology or the structure of your product?
Yeah, we have a couple of patents. We've got one on the mirror and the dumbbells. These are sort of, patent pending. Obviously, patents take a long time to come through. But we have put in a couple of patents. From the early days, we basically had those. Our dumbbells, I don't know if you've seen them, but they're very, they tend to be very well regarded. So they go up from 2 kg all the way to 32 kg. They're these adjustable dumbbells where you turn the handle and it just sort of increases or decreases the weight depending on which way you're going. And a lot of people love these because everything we've built, the mirror, the dumbbells, we've also got a bench. It's all designed for the home. So, we basically have 16 dumbbells in one. And, with all of these things, the goal is to try and minimize the amount of space required because, a lot of people, especially as I was saying in London, don't have much space in their home. And so it's all designed for that. The bench itself can also fold down like a step, and you can just sort of slide that onto your sofa. So it's all designed for the home basically.
Nice. I've seen those dumbbells. I've seen those dumbbells. And I think I was watching Stephen Bartlett's home show thing on YouTube where they take him around his home. And I just Googled it now, and AI mode said that Stephen Bartlett is an investor in the company.
Not I know of. I mean, he might be a small investor somewhere, but
on Google AI mode, it says the Magic dumbbells associated with Stephen Bartlett are the Magic AI Smart Adjustable Dumbbells, a product from the fitness technology brand Magic. Stephen Bartlett is an investor in the company. That's on Google's AI overview. Yeah. So did you guys invent those Magic dumbbells?
So we basically, the concept of the adjustable dumbbells isn't something that we came up with. But we have customized it in some regards. Obviously, we put our own branding on it. We worked through like various different iterations because, when you think about sort of the adjusting of the weight, one of the big things is to make sure that the actual plates themselves don't fall off as you're exercising because that's very dangerous. So we did quite a bit of R&D into that, and we did some R&D into making sure that, it becomes quite easy to adjust the weight. The rotation of the actual handle itself feels quite seamless. So we've gone through, various different sort of versions of those to make sure that the ones we have at the moment are the best. But we didn't come up with the idea for the dumbbells. That's a concept that's been around, but we definitely played a big role in making these popular.
You just make them more magic.
Yeah, you could say that. Yes. At one point, actually, we did. So in the early days, we were exploring the idea of putting a sensor into the dumbbells. So we were testing whether or not we could basically use a sensor to better track how many reps you're doing and how well you're exercising. We put that project on pause, and I have seen one or two other companies out there who have picked that up. I think one is Technogym, who have been looking into that, and they've released a product that has this capability. But because our mirror itself has a lot of functionality and does a lot with the camera, we thought it best just to focus on that for now, and maybe in the future we could also make the magic dumbbells more magical. But as they are, they're very good. And the other benefit of that is just that if somebody doesn't want to buy our dumbbells, they have that option. They can use any dumbbell, so it just makes the options a bit more flexible for users.
Yeah, I love the flexibility, and I think you having dumbbells and the mirror is great. And if there was a way that they can talk to each other, that'd be amazing. I was going to ask you a question about how did you go from the idea to execution, because that's the hardest part of innovation, right? So you had this, like, you and Varun had the idea, or Varun had the idea. How did it happen? So how did you meet? How did it happen? And how did you figure out how to execute? So did you use a lot of your career experience to do that? Because I know Varun's from an investment banking background.
Yeah, so Varun and I actually both went to the same school. He's a few years older than I am, so we weren't like very close to school, but we knew of each other. I then joined Hubble as part of the founding team, and Varun was working there, and we both became good friends through the time that we spent in this company. And Varun stayed at Hubble for quite a bit longer than I did, but I went away. I worked on various sort of other projects. I did quite a bit of freelancing. I worked with a fitness influencer as well. And what happened was, I was a product manager, so I was the first product manager at Hubble, and that taught me a lot about how to build a business. I was quite fortunate enough to be part of a very good team where I learned a lot about products from. I often say that the 1.5 years I spent as part of the founding team at Hubble was probably more impactful on my life than the 3 years I spent doing a physics degree at Imperial, which is, I think, really saying something, because physics at Imperial is pretty crazy. So it was genuinely like a very good experience for me, at Hubble, and the impact it had on my life was incredibly positive. And when it did come to leaving, it was a very tough decision that took me a good few months to really think through in detail. But yeah, then I left, Varun and myself and various other people, being part of the founding team. Quite often our goal, we spoke about how we wanted to someday build the company. And Varun reached out to me whilst I was actually on holiday in the Canary Islands. I think I just finished swimming and I saw this message from Varun. And yeah, he mentioned this idea, he wanted to build this thing. And Varun's forte very much is, he's very good at marketing, PR, finance, the business side of things. And my sort of forte is like product and technology. And so we came together, we complement each other quite well in that regard because of, different sort of skill sets. And we started building this. In the first year and a half was very challenging. Obviously, you're bootstrapping. There's not much money that you're able to invest into this. And we had to work with a couple of outsourced teams to help in various different areas. And I remember once I was actually on holiday with my family. I woke up in the morning and I had these messages come through from these two different teams that we were working with. So one was building a team in India that was building the app for us, and the other team was a factory that was building the very basic sort of proof of concept, the actual hardware. And it was just very challenging working with them. They weren't very good. In some cases, the communication wasn't great because of, different languages, different cultures. And we persevered. We managed to get through that phase, and we took this proof of concept that we built, we took it to investors. We managed to raise a pre-seed, and using that, we managed to build a very solid team of 5 people. You mentioned earlier about Torch, who, got acquired, team of 4. We were a team of 5 for, a large chunk of our sort of lifespan. And that took us a long, long way. I think, you hire really good people, it has such a positive impact on the business. And that's what has happened to us. We had such a solid team in the early days that helped us to grow really quickly. And it's helped us to build this strong foundation to the point now, we're a much bigger team. And we can use that strong foundation to continue growing, continue accelerating. So yeah, it's been super awesome. And you mentioned Stephen Bartlett earlier. We took over his old office space. So that's our current office space now. So we've taken over his office. And I think the room that I'm in now, I overheard yesterday, that he used to have his haircuts done in this room. So he used to bring in a barber and he'd get his haircut in this room. But I can't see any remnants of hair on the floor, but that is what I've been told.
Is that why your hair looks so fresh today? But yeah, like I need to come down to the office then, because I'd love to, one, meet Stephen Bartlett, and two, to meet you guys as well, because yeah, I love fitness and health. And I can't believe that you did physics at Imperial College London. That's amazing. It's one of the, for those listening who don't know, it's one of the best universities in the world. Particularly in UK, it's very well regarded. What sort of physics did you do? Was it a specific area in physics, or just a general physics degree?
It was just general physics. So I did a three-year BSc at Imperial. I think 3 years was enough for me. And the year that I started was the first year they they tripled the fees. So that was one thing. And then I think we were considered the guinea pig year, where they were sort of testing sort of new modules, new kind of course material on us. And it was tough, but I mean, physics really opened my eyes. And when I think about, when I try and describe the impact that it had on me, I'd say, if you think of the brain as a muscle, it really helped me to improve my way of thinking. And I think it really helped me to develop my logical thinking skills, my analytical thinking. It had like such a huge impact on that. And that really plays a big role, in my day to day now. People often ask that they say you did a degree of physics, but now you're doing something completely different. Did it feel like it was a waste of time? But I often say that the content, okay, sure, maybe most of that I don't remember now, but what has really helped me are the skills that I developed through that degree, and really pushed me and really helped me to grow as a person. And I did say that my time at Hubble was more impactful on my life than my degree, but I don't want to underplay the impact of my degree as well. It played a huge role in who I am now. So yeah, no, it's been great.
For sure. And there's always something that happens before the big moment, right? And your degree allowed you to gain maybe the critical thinking and the way to answer interviews to get that job, right? So without the degree, you might not have got the job at Hubble. So
yeah,
the chicken or the egg situation. And everything happens for a reason, I believe in anyway. So
yeah,
good.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think people often say that, if you could go back in time, would you repeat? Would you do the same degree? And my answer always is that it's very, very difficult to answer, because as you were saying, one thing leads to another. And so it's a case of, for example, if I did computer science instead, would that have resulted in me going to Imperial? Would I've got into Imperial? Because, computer science, from what I have been told, it can be harder to get in for, because it's such a popular course. So would I have ended up at the same university? If I didn't end up at the same university, I would have had a completely different set of friends. Life would have been very different. So it's very, very hard to answer these questions.
Yeah, and well, we still stayed in the physics realm, because Hubble's obviously got the same name as the Hubble telescope, the famous one.
Yes.
Kind of used it in a way.
That is a good point. Yes.
Yeah. So on to the last question now, which is for you to ask the audience. So every single guest I have on, I always ask them to ask a question to the audience. It can be a statement if they want to, but what question would you like to ask the audience?
I think maybe if we stick to the topic of AI, I mean, one thing I often think about, so I talk about social media, for example, talk about Instagram, Facebook. It's very well known now that there are plenty of unintended consequences of social media. It contributes quite strongly to anxiety, people feeling lonely. And I think back to when I was first using Facebook, when it first came out, I could see that, looking back, I could see that being the case for me. Obviously at the time, this wasn't something that was known. And one thing I often say is that technology doesn't matter what it is. Anything new can have unintended consequences, and it's about being aware of those unintended consequences. So I think one question I would recommend people being mindful of, one thing I'd recommend thinking about is, let's say it could be AI, it could be anything. Always ask yourself, is this providing a net positive value for me? An example, let's say, is ChatGPT. I was using ChatGPT the other day, and it saved me so much time. And I know, obviously, as you mentioned, you use ChatGPT as well. Um, and that's great, but you've got to ask yourself, you think about the overall outcome, the overall impact on me. Is it positive or is it negative? It's saving me a bunch of time, but what are the negative consequences of this? Does it, because I'm not thinking as much for myself, does it mean that there's, some value here that I'm missing out on? So I think, especially in this day and age with the way technology is moving, how quickly it's moving with AI, I think it's important to ask yourself to be mindful of, is this overall, is what I'm doing, this decision I'm making, this thing I'm doing, is this actually benefiting me overall? I think that's like something that's very important to be aware of.
Yeah, and I think for me, ChatGPT and all of these AI tools do give a net positive. And I don't see myself as an individual. I see myself as part of society. So there's a good saying from JFK, which is the rising tide lifts all the boats. So does it impact both yourself and does it impact the society we're living in? If it's both of those, as a positive, then it's great. If it's just yourself and not society, then maybe it's not as great. So that's how I see things. And your tools are impacting health of everyone. The health of everyone impacts GDP through productivity, right? So it's benefiting everyone. I think it's great. So yeah, thanks for coming on the podcast. It's been a great episode. I love your business. I think you guys are going to become billionaires personally, and I hope you do. So yeah, keep up the good work, man.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, we'll see about the billionaires. I mean, that would be very nice. One step at a time.
Let me just stop pausing. Let me stop recording 1 second.